Okay, I'm so excited to share with you today research that I traversed the world and gathered from far ends of the universe. Well, at least the world. I was asked to do a study on happiness. And what a better pursuit can one have than the pursuit of happiness? So, in that, I gathered research from Stanford, from Harvard, from Yale, from Berkeley, from the Greater Good Science Center. I also got to hear from monks. And, sometimes you think, oh, I need to go and learn about happiness. I'll go climb the mountains and listen and talk to the monks. And so I did all the research. Some of it was on TED Talks, some of it was on my own research. But today we get to discuss happiness. So I invite you to take yourself off mute and let's talk about your definition of happiness. So how do you define happiness? You guys are cute. How do you define happiness? Erin and Kathy?
That's all right. It's on us. What do you got?
I'm happiest, really honestly, when I'm with Erin. We just have this connection. It's kind of magical.
Every bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. If she's on my mind, there's some happy that comes with it.
Yeah.
It's about the feeling I get when spending time with her, doing something for her, doing something with her. It's a feeling, it's a sensation, it's a general, an improved outlook. I can have shit come at me and say, oh, well, that's fertilizer, not shit. Sometimes I forget about it, but yeah.
So it makes you more resilient.
Happiness does.
Okay.
There you go.
Vienna, do you want to add to that?
The words that come to mind for me are there's some relationship to freedom, and whether it's, I think a person could be in a lockdown situation, not just virus lockdown, but I think I've heard of people in even prison situations still maintaining a happiness. So I don't think it's an external thing, but I think it's an internal thing. You can take away my whatever, but you can't take away my freedom or that happiness. I loved your word resilient. And something I'm exploring right now is the concept of being more in flow, like finding out what really brings me joy. So I've never known what I would decorate with if I really had an empty slate of a new house to decorate. And so I went to a furniture store armed only with my phone camera and took pictures of everything that brought me joy. And so I think part of it is when we know ourselves and do live in harmony with ourselves, not doing things against ourselves or compromising our own flow. And then when I am finding out what really wants to come through me. And boy, is there a lot of happiness related to that when I'm doing what I feel called to do. So those are my thoughts.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think you guys touched on almost everything I might be talking about, be it internal, external, relationships, design, having material things bring us joy, working with the flow versus having something push against. So I'm very, very impressed with what you brought up. And with that, I'm going to share my screen and my research on happiness. This is the secret to happiness and how to get there. From the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Are you good? Okay. So in my quest, I was actually posting some things out to my audience, my people, my friends, and I loved what people shared back. A text from a friend. And when I said text a friend what they mean to you, oh my God, you should totally do this exercise, because the volume of texts that I got from people I care about telling me what I mean to them. And some of them were doing it out of the blue. They hadn't seen the post. And I was like, what small actions build happiness? This is a small action that builds big happiness. So I loved what people were bringing back. A text from a friend, a compliment from a stranger, a random act of kindness, and what you can't see there is a hug. And the question really is, you've come here and you've decided that you're going to invest some of your life experience and time learning more about happiness. So why? Why would you invest in your own happiness? You could see the value in investing in your happiness personally and professionally. You could gain clarity on your definition of happiness. You could gain tools that when you implement, you'll actually love, and it will improve your happiness scores. And you'll identify things that would be considered happy action steps to make a difference in your life and others. So that's the value of investing in this. And with that, I was like, well, what are we really going to talk about? So we can talk about what is happiness. Where is happiness? How do you get some of this stuff? Is there a formula for this? Is there a surefire path? How do you cultivate it? And what are the stepping stones to happiness? So let's take a moment and just imagine. Imagine you are happy. In your mind's eye, if you are imagining yourself happy, where are you? What does the environment look like? Is there a temperature that makes you happy? Do you feel something externally or internally? Is there something that you smell that makes you happy? Maybe you're reminiscing about something that has happened before that brings you to this happy point. Are there sounds? Is there laughter or music? Or what sounds bring you to this happy place? What sights, what sounds, what smells? Are there tastes that remind you of happiness? Are there relationships with other people that you connect with, where you feel like you can be vulnerable and you are safe in your heart? So imagine you are happy and create a mental picture, a photograph of this moment in this happy place. And that's your happiness set point. And now come back to me here. And once you've got your happiness set point, it's a gift you give yourself. And you can return to this happiness, this place of happiness, in less than a moment. So, are you ready to discover your path to happiness? Well, as I embark with you on this journey, one of the things that came to my attention was we're born into this life, and it's like we have this pursuit of happiness. And it made me think of the game of life, and this is an old covered version of it. And it's a Milton Bradley game, and Art Linkletter heartily endorses the family game, if you remember him. I love that the subtitle notes that it's a full 3D action game, because don't you think life is a full 3D action game with all of the obstacles and bumps and thrill rides that are included in it? So in the board game of life, if you'll recall, you're given an opportunity to get a car, and then you have to pay auto insurance, and you're like, oh, and you can get an education. And if you choose to get an advanced education when you get an occupation, you might get paid more. And then you can choose a spouse, and you throw all these little pink and blue pegs into the back of the car, and all these things happen to you along the way. but and you might get to millionaire acres or the country estates or something. That's like the end goal. But I think there's only like one card in there that talks about, the bluebird of happiness has flown over you. You get 2 points or whatever it is. And I just thought, we are innately wired when we are born to pursue this serene sense of peace, of happiness, of calmness, of contentedness. And when it's out of alignment, we try to get back to that set point. It's like when a plant is reaching toward the sun for photosynthesis. We are constantly in this seeking mode for happiness. So who am I to speak of happiness? I'm Michelle Hoffman. I'm the international best-selling author of 2 books, speaker, writer, coach, mom, business professional, management extraordinaire. And what brought me to this point in my pursuit of happiness was really when my husband passed away, and there was no guide for me to find happiness again. And of course, as I was mentioning, we're seeking this set point. So I decided that I would write the guide that I did not have, because during the week that my husband had passed, I went to 4 funerals, and that was a lot of black and tears for 1 week. At the 4th funeral, this was the funeral of my uncle, my dear uncle. And as we were arriving, I saw a cousin I hadn't seen in a long, long time. And I was exuberantly happy to see my cousin. And I reached out to her with a big, joyful face. And she looked at me and said, "What are you smiling about? You're a widow." And I thought, whoa, well, you just sucked the happiness out of this moment, and realized she had just lost her father. So we're going to have some compassion there. But it made me feel like because my husband had passed, I was going to be banished to the back corner of the room with a black shawl like Miss Havisham, and just be the auntie who's crying in the back of the room for the rest of my existence. And I didn't want that image to be the image of who I'm stepping into. So I went from being invisible to, I would much prefer being Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow. And I wanted to find this superpower that I have to help other people go and make the same transition, because there's more to life than just being the one who didn't die. And you don't have to be sent to the back corner of the room wearing black and tears for the rest of your existence. So in that, I help people who are ready to start life again. If they're feeling depressed, burnt out, hopeless, or stuck, and you don't know how to change things, if you're feeling lonely, lost, worried, or not enough, and you don't know how to change things, if you're feeling heartbroken, like there's no healthy escape, and you're worried about life, your kids, work, and you don't know how to change things, or if you're looking for a healthy way to move through a traumatic experience or grief of any kind, and you're becoming the head of household, or you're becoming the sole parent, or I would say the sole caregiver for an adult or someone you care about, or your dependents, like your children, it can be an overwhelming situation. And there's just this sense of uncertainty. Well, I figured it out and I wrote a book on it. And I take people to the point of becoming independent with unblocked potential, unlimited revenue, and re-energized. And Elizabeth here says to me that she found her purpose at the intersection of her passion, skill, and earning potential. And there's a testimonial quote. Jennifer was now feeling like she could take care of herself and her kids again. She was feeling confident with the life plan in place and the steps to achieve her vision and goals. Her kids were secured and she had new purpose. In fact, she was able to help others. Your hindsight gives me foresight. This is David, and he's feeling like his family is balanced and whole again. and that he's got lasting love that lasts. He's got an advisory board, much like a business would have a board of directors. He's developed that for not only himself, but his children, resetting his priorities. He's feeling fulfilled and calm again. He's got it all together. And I've created a life worth living and have become a competent guide with a clear, well-lit path. The kids are thriving, we're stabilized and inspired. So I've been tasked with asking you, how much longer will you wait to take control of your life and your ability to pursue happiness? Of course, to pursue it, you need to know what it is. So how do you define happiness? And I asked this throughout the world, and people answered with things like you said at the beginning of this presentation: health, surrounded by loving family and friends and a purpose; love, freedom, contentment, a lack of expectations; puppies, fall colors, a good belly laugh; inner peace. Some people feel that happiness comes from the accomplishments achieved; and family. Then there's the opposite, like freedom from anger and resentment brings happiness. Being able to smile in the face of adversity, surrounded by obstacles. So there's a resilience there. Waking up with a little pep in my step makes me happy. Kissing my wife in the morning, hearing her pleasant sigh. All things that bring happiness. Then there's a definition: this flying feeling in the chest and a smile from inside. Grateful in the moment. Art brings happiness. Maybe happiness comes in moments, but what we want is overall contentment. So what I learned is everyone has their own definition of happiness. I looked back in time. Ancient Greeks and Buddhists, philosophers have been pursuing the definition of happiness throughout time. In fact, they discovered what we just discovered, that as many people who are considering happiness have their own definition for happiness. Webster's simply defines happiness as a state of well-being, characterized by emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. A pleasurable and satisfying experience. I think we would agree with that. What I want to point out is that well-being and contentment and intense joy are all definitions and interchangeable words used for happiness. Martin Seligman is an inspirational speaker, and he decided to come up with a formula, and we'll see many of them throughout this presentation. Research studies show that our enduring level of happiness, so you'll see that time and time again, that happiness equals this enduring emotion or enduring way of existence. And it's this happiness set point, and it's an addition. The pup is playing behind me. She brings me happiness, but I don't know what she's after right now. So happiness is defined by the sum of your life circumstances, influenced by aspects of your temperament and your character, such as if you're overtired, it's hard to be happy. So your sleep and intentional or voluntary actions. And those are two things that are relevant, because it's not just what happens to you, but it's your intentional actions or the actions that you choose. So even if we had a clear definition of happiness, so let's say we do, how are we going to find it? Where is it? So, are there road signs for happiness? Happiness, the monks say, is an internal way of thinking of things, and it's in your mind. So let me ask you this question. Are you happy today? Are you having a good day? If you're having a good day, why? And if you're having a bad day, that's equally important to know. Why? So this Buddhist monk gave me the insight to ask the question of, are you having a good day today and why? And tomorrow, would you rather have a good day or would you rather have a bad day? Because it's a choice. And these are the intentions that you have. How about the day after? How are you going to approach your life? And the message here is that much of the time, your mind is like a balloon in the wind being blown. And if happiness is in your mind and you are being blown in the direction that you wish to be, you will be happy. But if you're being blown in the direction you don't wish to go, then you will not be happy. So if happiness is in your mind, if the reasons your experience was happy depends on circumstances, then your happiness is in the hands of others. This is an imperative issue to consider, because you then have the control to stop outsourcing your happiness and your unhappiness to other people and circumstances, and stop blaming others for your state of being. As long as you're making it other people's responsibility, your happiness is going to remain unstable and elusive. So, how do you do anything about it? And this brings me back to my university professor of my logic class. Postulate 1. If you can actively cultivate your source of peace and happiness in your own mind, and postulate 2, happiness and unhappiness are states of mind. Conclusion: their real causes cannot be found outside of the mind. If you have a peaceful state of mind, you'll be happy regardless of the external circumstances. That's the philosophy here. But how do you get there? How you respond to your circumstances and state of mind determines your happiness or unhappiness. And how do you manifest change in that? Would it surprise you that a monk recommends meditation? Meditation is the mental action of concentrating on a peaceful state of mind. And we'll go into that in a little bit more depth a little bit later on. What I want to share with you at this point is the way that I present happiness as an internal state of mind, because I feel that we each have a dial inside of us, and that we can choose how we respond to the external circumstances. So you can turn the dial to joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. I've chosen these 5 emotions, one for simplicity's sake, and also because Paul Ekman, who was invited to do a study on what he calls the Atlas of Emotions.org. It's a great tool. The Dalai Lama asked him to develop this. One of the things he discovered in his research with psychologists across the world is that these are the 5 main accepted emotions that everyone experiences. Now, there are all different iterations of that in the Atlas of Emotions.org. But what I'm saying is, based on what is happening in your life and in your world around you, you can choose how to respond by using this internal emotional dial. They've got some other tools here that you can enjoy using. And if you're watching this on video, just stop the video and take a few minutes, but don't take more than 10 minutes to do this exercise, or it could be a lifetime pursuit. But if you're feeling like things are overwhelming and cluttering in your mind, think about the things that you cannot control that have a direct impact on your life. Within that group, what are the things you can control? So sort of the serenity prayer. And then what's a little bit different here, my spin on it, is what can you address right now that will have a positive impact to get you moving in the direction of your goal? And this could be one tiny step just outside your comfort zone. You need to start somewhere to make that positive motion start. A similar exercise that I offer to you, if you're interested, is to step into your future identity And you can make a list of the roles of who you used to be, whether you were a child, a sibling, whether you were a student, whether you were a friend. So name all the different hats you've worn. Who are you now is a subset of that, because all of who you used to be is making up who you are now. And again, the next step is, who do you wish to become? So once you have that vision in your head of who you wish to be that will bring happiness into your life, I'll give you an example. Perhaps you were single and you wanted to be a partner, and then you wanted to welcome children into the world. So that would be who you are becoming. So putting that intention in place helps you know the goal of which way you're going. I also offer this tool of adjusting mindset through this thought loop. And this is something, again, if you're watching this on the recorded video, you can stop the recording and walk yourself through this thought loop. And essentially, if there's something that's keeping you up at night, or your brain is grinding on a specific topic, or there's just discomfort and you keep coming back to the wrong thing, it's distracting you, figure out what is a fact, a one-sentence fact about that situation that is disturbing you so much. Consider what thought goes through your head. One sentence, no commas, just what is the thought in response to this fact? And as a result of that, ask yourself, what emotion is evoked? So this is going to be one word. And then what behavior do you either act on, or you don't act, or you react to as a result of this emotion? And what are the consequences? What's the outcome of that? That obviously you wouldn't feel you needed to work through unless you went all the way through this. And then the gift in writing all of this down or thinking it all the way through is to ask yourself, what is one small shift you can make that will bridge this to the point where the fact might remain the same, but your thought about it may change? Or you can ask, is that fact really a fact? And that will snowball, and your outcome will be more in the direction that you're looking for. Okay, if we know what happiness is and where it might be located or where it might not be located, and we've got some tools to work through some challenges, how can we get to happiness if we don't have a role model for it, or enough role models for it? The World Happiness Research shows that 220 million and 1 billion adults are suffering from some sort of anxiety, depression, or conduct disorders at any moment in time. And if we're learning by watching others, and we are the role models for others, and you deserve to have a happy childhood, you deserve to have a happy adulthood, who is role modeling this? Because what's happening is we're watching people struggle for their own happiness. There's no straight line. But then how do we get it? So there was a study done in Harvard. This was an interesting one because it's all the way back from 1938 to 2012. And they continued with the same people, the 700 people who shared what they understood makes us flourish as people. Now, I realize flourish may not equal exact happiness, but let's just say it's close enough that it's going to give us a clue as to the results that they discovered may help us figure out how to role model happiness and how to find it for ourselves. What the researchers found was that happiness doesn't come from wealth or fame or being in a committed relationship or working hard. Now, this sent me on a little bit of a tailspin because I'm like, working hard? Could you just work hard for happiness? And this reminded me of Carol Dweck, the Stanford professor's study on fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Because if you can't work for it, then it's just fixed. You're either born happy or you're born not happy. And I thought, that's harsh. Because a fixed mindset believes that whatever talent you've got, That's it. You can't gain anything else. Whereas with a growth mindset, you could work for it. You could work hard. In fact, if you have a growth mindset, the intention there is an underlying belief that your learning and intelligence can grow. And with effort, you can become smarter. You could become happier. You could affect your success and your overall achievement. So I wanted to, make sure that working harder was taken in the growth mindset, not the fixed mindset. The study ultimately showed that happiness is based on the quality of relationships that you have, not the quantity of them, but the ability to be vulnerable, listen, and share what's close to your heart in quality relationships. So, how can we achieve happiness? How can you cultivate it? When you look outside to have everything to be happy, you can't really control the outer world because that control is limited and temporary. And this is another monk's support and insight. And what this monk is saying is if the inner conditions are a stronger serenity, and there's inner strength and inner freedom and confidence, then you can withstand external adversity. So again, the monk feels that it's internal, and if your internal strength is resilient enough, then you can maintain your happiness despite what's going on outside. Well, how do you nurture this happiness? And if this happiness state is a state of mind of flourishing, then the recommendation is to use a mind training technique of putting the opposing emotion in place to counter the emotion that you're having. So if you're feeling sad, you change the emotional dial that I showed you to happy, and you literally bring that internal serenity to happy. If you're maybe feeling angry, you turn the dial to joy. So it's literally your ability to turn the dial. If we could cultivate happiness, Katarina Blum is talking about comparing this psychological state of being with a physical state of being. And there's a whole compassion and a happiness division at Stanford University. And the mindset is that we could approach healthy habits with relationships, much like we approach exercising to maintain physical health. And they say investing time and heart in relationships with those around you may be one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself to develop happiness. So here's a way to cultivate it. Invest in your relationships. And then they go on to say that you can take external actions to affect an internal result. So although happiness may not be something you find outside of yourself, you could do some work and hone the skill to create external scenarios that bring you internal happiness. So essentially what they've done is they're creating this gym, like a physical gym you might go to compare to a psychological gym, to train on happiness and well-being skills to make them as common as physical health. So what they're ultimately doing is creating the green smoothie and sit-ups to build healthy habits of psychological well-being and happiness. There was also this study, and this isn't going to surprise any of you, that the science and psychology of giving makes us happy. And what they did was they talked about the physiological responses when we volunteer or do good deeds, as whatever we consider these good deeds. And what happens physically is our endorphins kick in as the helper's high, they call them. Oxygen levels rise. So they're ultimately calling volunteering or giving of yourself the anti-aging remedy. It's the fountain of youth. And it pumps serotonin into your body's happy transmitter, dropping your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone. So one way to get to happy is to volunteer and give and share with others. All right, so let's take a moment here, and if you would like, you can take yourself off mute and just very quickly, or if you want to do it in your head, that's fine too. We're going to do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you think of very fast 5 people you're grateful to have in your life? How about 4 things you're grateful for? How about 3
Hamburgers, Kathy, sleep, and farts.
Excellent. How about 3, Vienna, do you want to include?
Sorry.
Or Kathy, you want to?
Oh, I'll catch on the next one. Go ahead.
All right. Vienna, do you want to do 4 things you're grateful for?
Yes, indeed. A place to call home, a functioning vehicle that I enjoy, a washing machine.
Those 3.
Give us one.
And family. And that song.
Okay. 3 accomplishments you've achieved.
Oh, jeez. I became a dad.
Yeah.
I got remarried. I am back to work after having a crash in my life.
Awesome. How about one of you would like to talk about 2 events that have changed your life for the better?
For me, getting involved in life coaching, being coached, and coaching others and being a mom.
Awesome. How about one time you shared your money, time, talent, or energy selflessly with someone else?
Yeah, did that with money. Church. They had a winter camp for kids, and there were some kids that couldn't go but wanted to go, and I donated some money, and 3 got to go. It was kind of cool. Mine didn't want to.
That's awesome. All right. So gratitude grows in a forward motion. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well done, you guys. Well done. So I went on with my study to see if there was a pragmatic, simple way by just plugging in a formula for happiness. And what I learned was something that, wow, you guys obviously know. Life's too short to be wasted. You need powerful tools to get yourself started on the path to living in happiness. And the reality is, you devote your entire life to being happy. Accomplishments, traveling, celebrity, fame, love. And here's the challenge. Anything you can get, you can unget. And that was the problem. So here's the attempt at this equation of if X happens, like if I graduate college, or if I fall in love, or if I become CEO, or if I write a book, or if I'm in a relationship, whatever it is, then Y will happen and I will be happy. If X, then Y equals happy. And we each have our own equation for this. We plug in our own things. But what motivated you 10 years ago is so different than what might motivate you now. You may have accomplished many of those things. So it's not one formula that will work throughout your life. You have to keep plugging in new things. So if I want to be CEO, then I want to be billionaire CEO or whatever it is. And the culmination of this philosophy is that actions are within your control. Outcomes are outside of your control. So the concept here is that rather than investing in the outcome, invest in the process. Okay. So when have you been confronted with such beauty, it took you outside yourself to great serenity? Was it a sunset or a sunrise? Was it a beautiful vista in nature? What made this a scene where you stopped and took a breath and saw perfection in the moment without investing in the outcome, without even investing in the process. Maybe if you were somewhere where you could see a pod of dolphins, that might bring you to such happiness. And then you got to see a baby dolphin, because what could be better than that? Or how about a perfect rainbow? Just exactly as it is. It's perfection exactly in the moment. You didn't say, ah, that rainbow would be perfect and I'd be happy if it was just a little to the left. Because there is something so beautiful in realizing that in the moment that everything is perfect if you accept it. And instead of striving to make it different, enjoy it exactly as it is. Actions are within your control, so investing in the process or investing in the moment, whereas outcomes are outside of your control. And I know that this is relevant and it's important, but it's hard to do that all the time. So maybe there's another way that we can invest personally and professionally. So the Happy Planet Index did this. And in fact, they found happiness in different parts of the world, and they created an index for it based on well-being times life expectancy times the inequality outcomes, all over the ecological footprint that we make. So they've done this for different parts of the world. And the proposal is that perhaps we do this, we overlay that happy index, the Happy Planet Index, on companies. So when we consider investing in a business or a place to work, a company may be considering the value of happiness because it makes people feel engaged or connects them emotionally to the company, colleagues, and the task at hand. But what if that Happy Planet Index was considered one of the investing factors, such as return on investment, cash flow, relative market share, or the long-term prospect of the company? So if we include this happiness factor as a public indicator and people invest in those businesses, the proposition is that all of the businesses that we are investing in will bring up the happiness level. So the secrets to happiness and how to get there was a very interesting pursuit. And what I learned was it's an enduring feeling, this happiness. But really, what makes up this enduring feeling is moments of joy. And so I looked up. Joy is an intense momentary feeling of positive emotion that makes us smile, laugh, and jump up and down. So my question to you is, how do you feel in the moment right now? It looks pretty joyful over there, actually. Probably a smile and a laugh and a sense of contentedness is what I'm seeing. So when you're seeking joy, how do you find the tangible things that create an intangible feeling of this momentary joy? What's the relationship with the physical world that creates happier and healthier lives? So this study shows things like ice cream cones make you happy. And the only way to bump that up would be to put sprinkles on them. Cherry blossoms, celebrations without a reason, patterns, lightness, aesthetics. I feel, I sense, I perceive, which I particularly loved, and I'll bring this up in a little minute here. But joy begins with the senses and the sensations of joy. Bubbles bring us happiness. Tree houses bring us happiness. Why would we hold ourselves back from joy? How did we end up in a world that's not filled with tree houses and bubbles and cherry blossoms and ice cream with sprinkles and beautiful views like swimming pools? And what we've discovered is that we're more confident and joyful in colorful spaces. As a result, in nature, those imply a sign of life and energy and abundance, which signifies survival rather than scarcity. Finding happiness through the tangible things gives this indescribable, hopeful feeling. Our differences are so vast, and we still find joy in the same things. These passing moments are really important in that they remind us of the shared humanity we find in the common physical world. Fireworks brings happiness. So my point being that the joy are these little moments that we string together to create this necklace, this overall enduring sense of happiness, and it measures how we feel over time. So in summary, these are my secrets to happiness. Experiences, experiencing our existence through our senses and connections with the people and the world around us. Security, feeling safe, loved, and not alone. Community, we want to know we love and we are loved. Abundance, we have enough to share. The mindset that we will get more, but not too much, and it's going to be as good or better in the future. This inspired my quote, take what you need, not more than what you need. Give what you can, not more than what you have. And that shows that volunteering, that investment, not only in yourself, but in others to innovate and bring forward, as well as create a legacy that demonstrates that we have made an impact on the world. And that's the purpose and legacy, because what you say and do matters. Those are my secrets to happiness. You'll definitely have your definition, but what I've done is created the Life Worth Living process that demonstrates the 7 steps to achieving that happiness, the fun, the diversion, which is built on a foundation of having a solid identity, perhaps through a career or a volunteer pursuit, having revenue and resources that you need to do whatever it is that you wish to pursue. Ensuring that the relationships that you have are quality relationships where you can feel vulnerable and share your heart, that your health and self-care are top priority, and that you know how to move forward in such a way to support that. In fact, you're a role model for others. And sometimes luxuries are not really a luxury when you realize how valuable they truly are in your life. Speaking of that, we talk about protecting what's valuable to us in life and how to protect it. These are often unstated conversations, which sometimes it can be too little or too late when you haven't put things in place to protect what's important to you. I also talk about how to build your advisory board, as I mentioned earlier, of like a business has a board of directors, how to ensure that you have the emotional support, the subject matter experts. You've got the people who would leverage their position to help your success, and accountability partners, making sure that you remain on track to achieve your goals, and also to make decisions that are right for you and your family in a healthy way. And all of that's available at yourlifeworthliving.org. And if you're interested, you can just take a snapshot of that or go to yourlifeworthliving.org and download a free copy of my international bestseller today. And if you'd like, scroll down on the right side, put some time on my calendar, and I can't wait to hear about what makes you happy.